Hi, everybody. This is Wade Anthony, candidate in Decula, running for mayor for the city of Decula. So I'm here to talk to you about the election and what's going on in Decula. I have had a couple of questions from some people, so I'll try to do my best to answer those questions. Okay. Um, One question I have, let me get to these questions here for you guys. Um, get to, yeah, so one question I have is somebody asked me about my experience since I haven't had any political experience in the killer. And what I'll say is that I'm a programmer by profession. I've worked managing complex solutions for multiple companies. I've worked at different banks. For the last 25 years, I've been a business intelligence professional. So I've implemented solutions at AT&T, um, American Express, Citibank, um, and part of my job, even today, my job, I work as a business intelligence professional serving the financial service industry. I get very complicated problems that I have to task to solve, that I'm tasked with to solve. And so um, I'm equipped to come in and solve problems. And one of the things about problems, when you get problems, first you have to understand the problems. You have to admit you have a problem, and then you come up with alternatives to solving those problems, and then you implement the best solutions. I'm a people person. I know how to negotiate. With others, working with um, different people, different backgrounds. So I'm very comfortable at addressing other people, other groups, and bringing people together. I have a very relaxed personality, but it's not a sign of weakness. I could read into people and just having conversations. And sometimes you have a conversation with different groups and you get a different understanding or, or some another entity that may seem like adversarial. So having deep understanding of humans and coming together to solve the problems, I'm equipped to solve problems in the Cula. My major in college was public administration, um, John Jay College of Criminal Justice at City University of New York. That's where I come out of. Um, in terms of public project, I worked at the World Trade Center, protecting the World Trade Center after the first bombing. And I work under the direction of a NYPD police officer who was on point for 25 years, a New York City detective, Mr. Samuel Mercado. I worked under his direction at the World Trade Center. So in terms of public space, I been working in a public project before. Also, it was a union environment, so I'm accustomed to working with unions. So that's where my expertise lies in terms of public public policy. Uh, Another question that's been asked is, what would I do with downtown Decula? And what what I've been asked on the campaign trail as I come around the community and I talk to different people. One of the things that people keep asking me for is a town green. People would ask about a town green or a meeting spot. Is that we do not have a meeting spot or a town green in the cooler. So that's one of the things where I like to address. Um, but one of the things that we have to look at money, and so we can't have this vast wish list. I don't want to raise any taxes. In fact, I am not going to raise any taxes. Um, I believe that the government, different levels of government, have been sticking us up for too long. I'm not a tax and spend person. I believe that we have to live on what we earn. And so our budget in the CULA is not too big. Um, I looked at the budget for this year. It's around $5 million. Um, it's very tight. I have to look at it deeper with a financial person to see where we could cut or look at ways we could get some funding to have a town green. That's town green or meeting spot. That's one of the places that people have been asking for, and um, I'll be happy to try and find the funding, but I will not raise taxes. So that's what I would like to do with downtown Decatur. I think that the historic appeal of downtown Decatur, we should try and fix that up and give Decatur give its back its unique character, its uniqueness about what it's like to be in Decatur. Um, One of the things I've thought about, and I would have to consider work with the city council and work with the people in the city of Decatur. I thought about having like a international food festival downtown, make that an annual thing, and our local business people could bring out their cooking, their culinary skills. Uh, Maybe even from nearby, we can have people from nearby come, and for a day or so, we could have a international Decatur food festival. So I would have to work with the community and city council and see how that how that works out. And another question I have is someone was asking about the political families in the Kula. I mean, I'm not gonna go too much into that, but what I'm saying is that I'm a political outsider. I'm not part of the system. I'm 59 years old. It's the first time I'm getting involved in public office. But I've always been a political person. I've always had a big mouth. I always speak up for the little guy. I've spoken up for myself and other little people. And I don't have a tolerance for nonsense. I don't have a tolerance for waste. I think that all of us work, citizens work, we work hard. Um, and I don't think government should be wasting our money. So the old boy system, I'm not a fan of the old boy system. I know what it is. And I don't have a problem rocking the boat, shaking things up. I want the Cula to be the same city why I moved here. I moved here 5 years ago because the Cula is a sleepy town, it's a sleepy city, it's a peaceful city, it's quiet. And that is why we moved here. In fact, when I campaign and I talk to people who have been here 21 years, etc., they moved to the Cula because it's a sleepy town. And that is why we are here. We do not want a big city. Not everybody wants a big city. Everybody does not want to live in Atlanta. Everybody does not want to live in New York. And so we have moved to the Cula. We understand there's going to be growth, and you can't stop growth. But we have to be smart about it. It is not everything that everybody does that we need. We don't need everything here. We don't need. Sometimes your neighbor go buy a expensive car. It doesn't mean that you have to go buy one. You know, I see up on an Alpharetta on the 400. You have this place called the Avalon. It's a multi, you know, facility. You have restaurants, you have apartments, you got all this kind of stuff. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's a fine fit for Alpharetta. We live in Decatur. We don't live in Alpharetta. We're not going to tell them what to do in Alpharetta. But we don't want outsiders coming in from Atlanta to tell us they want a 500 unit monstrosity in Decatur. I spoke with this gentleman on the campaign trail, and this gentleman told me he was told by previous administration when he moved here 21 years ago that apartments would never be allowed in Decula. And now the city council has voted unanimously on July 1st of 2021 to allow a monstrosity, a 500 unit apartment to be inside Decula. When I talk to my constituents, some of you tell me about the retail space. Yes, they're going to be 61,000 square feet of retail space, but many of you didn't know it's going to be a 500 unit apartment monstrosity. Some of you know that it was going to be a 150 units of for senior citizens, but you were not told that you're going to be an additional 350 units for the public. And what is being sold is this is half truth. The whole story is not being told. Everybody has a little bit of the story. Yes, it's a senior citizen center, it's a shopping center. But nobody gets the truth about this totality of this monstrosity. That when you explain to people it's going to be a 500 unit monstrosity in the community, nobody wants it. People are concerned about their property values. I am a mile, less than 2 miles away from this monstrosity at Harbins and 316. We're talking about traffic. That it already has congestion at Harbins and 316. This monstrosity that outsiders, people who are not from Decula, people who do not pay taxes in Decula, are bringing here. They decided, they work with the city council, and they decided that they're going to disrupt our lives and bring all this traffic. And the other thing too with apartments, they breed crime. You know, the first 5 years, they may attract the high-end people, and that's what they're selling us. They're selling us, it's going to be high-end people who are going to be moving into those apartments, 500 units. Well, let me tell you, my friend, historically, over a 5-year period, those people in the high-end apartments will leave. They'll buy homes. The developer will want to make money. He has to fill those units. And what will happen, as has happened elsewhere, people are going to start to move in. They will stop the credit checks. They will stop the kind of gatekeeping that would have been put in place. They will stop the kind of gatekeeping, and they will drop the standards. You will see a different type of people move in. Remember, we bought our homes. We have a long-term investment. You're going to start having people who do not have any investment into the community. And generally what happens, according to one of my neighbors, when he left Florida, because of the shootings that started at an apartment complex, a monstrosity they built in his neighborhood. And he ran out of Florida, he came to Georgia, he came to Decula. He bought a house in my subdivision to get away from the shooting. Now where is he going to run to? When you bring in this monstrosity, this retired man that left Florida to come to all peace and quiet, and he's going to run to the same thing here in Georgia. Now we have to stop this. We have to stop the madness. We have all these developers, they want all this land, they just see land, they just land crazy. Somebody got to stand up, and that's why I'm here to stand up. We got to stand up to these people and tell them no. And one of the things I'd like for the youth of the community to do is to get involved. There's a gentleman on the city council. His name is Mr. Danny Spain. Yes, he came on my Facebook page the other day, and he chided me for for only being at 2 city council meetings. And yes, I told him yes. I'm man enough to say yes, I've been to 2 city council meetings. Um, but I told him to, can you man up that you voted to allow the monstrosity? And he did man up online, and he admitted that he voted to allow the monstrosity. I'm not about to go back and forth with Mr. Spain or any other member of the city council. What I would say is that we have to work together. And I would encourage each one of you to at least attend a city council meeting, commissioners meeting. I was at the Tequila Activity Center last week. Our mayor, my opponent, Mayor King, he was there, and members of the city council. And Jasper Watkins, our commissioner on the from Gwinnett County, he had a town hall. It was pleasantly filled with many constituents, and I was glad for that. But the commissioner, he said one thing. He said we all need to come out to more commissioners meetings because there are 5 commissioners, and a lot of times when he looks out in the audience, and to the left you have the developers, or they have their lawyers, their representatives, and he looks over to the right. We are not there. We're not there. So he doesn't have the leverage to speak for us. When we oppose a lot of the projects that the developers and the special interests they want to bring into our city. And so I am making a commitment, whether I win or lose, I'll be at more city hall meetings. I'll try to be at everyone. They're once a month, so they're 12. I'll try to be at all of them, at least 80%. But when I become mayor, I'll be at every city council meeting. And that is how we're going to be engaged. I had a conversation with Mr. King. There was a private conversation at the town hall. You know, he loves the cooler. I love the cooler. We're both vying to get the same job. We're not enemies. This was my 3rd meeting with Mr. King. He introduced me to his lovely wife, and the cooler is our home. We have difference of opinions, different approaches, different styles in leadership. Well, the one thing we have in common, we love the cooler. And this election is not about trying to demonize the other person. You know, he was interviewed by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporter, and I was interviewed by the same reporter. But I was interviewed first. And I work from home, so it's easier for the reporter to get me. My schedule is much more flexible than Mr. King being a school teacher. So at the end of my interview, the interviewer asked me, do I have anything to tell Mr. King? And what do I think about Mr. King? And I said, I don't really know the man. I've just met him a few times. And I don't have anything bad to say about him. And the only thing I said to the reporter, which I told Mr. King the other night, I told the reporter, when you see Mr. King, tell Mr. King that I'm the best looking one, you know. And so when Mr. King, I told him that, and he just laughed. He laughed at it. He said, you're probably right. But we had a very private conversation. And this is not, the cooler will not reflect the ugliness you see in the national politics. That's not what we want here. I love the cooler. I love America. I came from the Caribbean when I was 15 years old. I'm now 59 years old. I spent most of my life in America. I spent 26 years in New York City, and the last 19 in Georgia. You know, I spent 5 years in the cooler and 13 years in Lawrenceville. I love this place. I love this place so much that my daughter, who was born just as we were about to move to the cooler, she's called Georgia. That's on her birth certificate. Her middle name is Georgia. I wanted her first name to be Georgia. Her mom won the fight to give her a different name as a first name, but that's how much I love Georgia and I love tequila. I'm here to build Georgia. I love it here. One of the projects that we have in our community is the Roaring Project. That is going to be um, a project that people are going to talk about for generations. But more so, it's going to have a very good impact on the Cula and on Georgia. The Rowan Project, um, first, one of the things that the county is doing, the county is building a $125 million pipeline. That's it's called the ERI, Eastern Regional Infrastructure Project, and um, it's going to run this pipeline to help deal with the sewage and fresh water that needs to be connected to where the Royan project in the eastern, just east of the Cula. So one of the things that I was pleased with is that the architectural firm that's managing the project is local to Gwinnett County, is local to Lawrenceville. The Royan project itself is on 2,000 acres of land. While it's being built, it's gonna employ about 10,000 people. And why I hope to be the mayor and hope to drive it where many, many people from the Cula will have jobs on that project. And also, the project is slated to start having residencies by 2035. It will have approximately 100,000 jobs, 100,000 new jobs that's coming into our area. Um, we have about 75,000 college graduates every year, and we want to keep these young people in Georgia. The Rowan Project, it's nonpartisan, it's non-political, it's mission-driven. It's going to be a knowledge community where medicine, agriculture, and the environment are going to be the three key drivers. It's going to anchor Gainesville, Athens, and Atlanta. And in that triangle, it's expected to generate $405 billion GDP annually. That is going to be great for our area. We're in the middle of this economic growth, but at the same time, we have to manage our land, manage our community, and grow smartly. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is crime and violence. And I sort of touched upon that earlier when I talked about the Inland Pass project not wanting any kind of apartments here. Um, we've had some uptick in some crimes, break-ins, and I lived in the Bronx. I lived in New York City. Um, I've dealt with crime. I don't have any tolerance for crime. You know, I was mugged when I was 17 years old, and so that has left a very sour aftertaste in my mouth about people who perpetrate crime. I went to a very rough high school. The high school I went to in the Bronx, the Theodore Roosevelt High School, it had over 80% dropout rate. I've seen many people who they came to school to cause problems, disruptions. They thought it was funny. And a lot of the negativity, a lot of these people bring over into society because later on they're gonna learn like, hey, I need a job, you need an education, right? And so they thought education was stupid in high school, or whatever reasons. And Roosevelt was closed down. It was taken over by the state of New York. And the state of New York, which has one of the largest economies in the world, The state of New York closed down Roosevelt because it lost control of a high school. And so the state of New York shut down Roosevelt's high school in 1990, I think it's 2006, yeah, 2006. I came to that system. I came to with all the drugs, all the violence, and all the problems of inner city. And I never folded. I never allowed that kind of stuff to consume me. And so I've moved away from the crime and the violence and to be someplace safe and quiet to raise my children. And I don't want that stuff to follow me. And that's why I don't want any apartments here. You know, I don't want it here. I don't want any violence here. But we have situations where I was at the city hall and in a meeting, a Gwinnett County commander was speaking about um, the problems that we have in Decula. And I have had residents tell me about the break-ins, people breaking into their cars. On my street in a Swank subdivision, the same thing has happened. The claim is that it's children, but they're big enough to know what they're doing. They come to the neighborhood late at night, and they'll try and jimmy the cars. They'll try and jimmy your doors to your homes. In the one instance on my street, the allegation is that these people got into someone's home and there was a key on the kitchen table and they took the keys and they stole the car in the people's driveway. That stuff can't be tolerated. I would not tolerate that stuff. I'll work with the county police to proactively, I want Decula to have such a reputation. When these people think about coming to, they wouldn't even think about coming to Decula to commit crime because the punishment is going to be so severe. That's the reputation. Coming out of John J. College Criminal Justice, I don't have a tolerance for crime. And so one of the things I would consider is creating a police force. I don't want to raise taxes. I don't want to have the police officers writing tickets to meet their quota. So for right now, we'd have to look at the county, but we have to work with the county. And the county would need to be aggressively policing and coming up with strategies and tactics and communicate to would-be offenders. You don't want to come to Decula to commit crimes. There's not going to be any tolerance for that. I spoke with this gentleman who tells me his neighbor called him to tell him that a woman jumped out of a car and ran upon his driveway to jump into his wife's car, and the thief took some contents out of his wife's car and then jumped back in the car and sped off. The other thing too, I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I swore to protect it, to defend it, and I swore allegiance to the Constitution. So I'm going to talk about the Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe you have a right to defend yourself. And I don't believe in mandates. So one of the things I'm going to ask gun owners not to do, I want to ask you, please do not leave your handguns in your cars, and especially if you're going to leave your cars unlocked. According to the police commander from Gwinnett County, I don't want to cite a number of handguns or weapons, firearms that were left in cars that were unlocked because we have this false sense of security of our safety. And these people come here and they are looking for our guns, right? So when you leave your cars unlocked, the criminals will find the guns. She said a number, I'm not sure if it was 20 or 80. but there are handguns out there on the street because we left our cars open and the criminals, they took advantage of that situation. So please, I'm asking you, I'm not going to violate or I'll support your Second Amendment rights to bear arms, but be careful out there with the handguns. Now, one other question I got about COVID. Would I do anything about COVID? COVID is a serious problem. And like I said, I do not believe in mandates. I volunteered to to um, to have gotten my shots. I have both shots. I got um, the Pfizer shot, and I think that people should be vaccinated, but I would not force people to be vaccinated. I would try and convince my neighbors, my family members, and about vaccination. I Someone asked me even before the vaccine was created, do you trust the U.S. government? I told them yes, without thinking about it. Yes, I trust my government. Um, and so when the shot was available, I got vaccinated. Um, but I think it's more of trying to convince people why they should vaccine. I don't have that conversation with anyone. I don't argue with people. I don't think you should force people to do anything. I have a cousin. We were raised together, and he is an anti-vaxxer. Um, we hadn't spoken in a couple of years, but we were raised really good. His mother, she's deceased. She was my aunt, and my dad, who was deceased, was his uncle. We were raised very close, and we, cousins. We haven't spoken 4 or 5 years. He's in England. I'm in the United States. But I picked up the phone and I called him one day after I got like a Facebook message from him, and the message was about some anti-vaccine, and he began to talk to me about that, and I told him, cuz um, we were raised too close together. We're blood. We're not gonna have that fight. And he smiled and he said he laughed and he said, I got you, cuz. Yeah. So that's my position with COVID. I just think that we need a way to convince people they need to or they should take the vaccine. We need to get COVID behind of us. Um, but I don't think it should be forced. We That's my feelings about it. Yeah. So that's how I'm going to wrap it up today. And I would like to see you guys go out and vote. My preference is that you vote for me, but I'll encourage you to vote. The last election, municipal election we had in 2019, we had only 195 people who voted. The Cula, that's not good. That's not good for the United States. It's not good for the state of Georgia. We have voices. There are multiple elections out here, whether it's city elections, county elections, state elections. We need to make our voices heard. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I forgot to talk about, and it's really, I call it property tax stabilization. But I like what the guy in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported. He said he called it lower property taxes because I think that property taxes, they're out of control. I want to know what law says that property taxes need to be raised every year and at the rate that they're being raised. A friend of mine was showing me a house in Pennsylvania, but where she lives, but she wants to buy it. And I looked at the tax rate from last year to this year. It's a tenth of a percent that the income tax went up. And I said, okay, that's pretty good. But where we live in Gwinnett County, the water bill is going to the roof, to the sky. And I look at my property tax, 44%. My property taxes have gone up in 5 years, 44%. That is a stick up. It's a robbery. And we have to stop the county from robbing us. I'm not saying we have to pay property taxes. We have to pay for police. We want our police to have good medical benefits and our firefighters to have the same thing and our county workers to have the same thing. But you just can't spend money like there's a bottomless pit. You just can't do that. I've lived in my home and I have to budget and make sure the lights are on, the water's coming in, food is on the table. The county needs to do the same thing. You just can't go around sticking up your residents because you have a monopoly on the property taxes. And so I know my property taxes have gone up 44%. And so your property taxes have gone up as well. And it's madness. We have to stop that madness. And so I want to work with the county. And I need your help, the taxpayers, because if people think that they're just going to stiff us and just stick us up every year and just raise the property taxes and take money away from your children, take money away from your family, because we don't get that kind of raise. I don't. The mayor job is a part-time job. It pays less than $5,000 a year. So I'm not doing that for the money. That's not my job. That would not be my job. That can't pay my bills. My day job does. And day job does not give me, if you get 3% raise, you're good. Right? So let's say you make $100,000 a year, which most people, you make $100,000 a year and you get a 3%, a $3,000 pay increase. The property tax is basically eating a big chunk of that. Then you have HOA fees. You have your other living expenses. And so instead of you going north, you're going south. Instead of you progressing, you're going backwards, because at the rate that these people tax you, they'll tax you until thy kingdom comes. And we have to put the brakes on that. One of the things I did this year, I called up the taxi, not the taxi, I'm sorry about that. I called up the tax assessor's office. And I said, you guys are wicked. They are some wicked people. And the woman said, oh, you can appeal. So I did appeal. I'm not afraid of them. I appealed. Guess what? I have nothing to lose, right? So I appealed. And the county said, you know what, Mr. Anthony? We're going to stop your taxes from increasing for 3 years. You sign this contract, and we will halt your taxes for 3 years. That shouldn't have to be anything special. I shouldn't have to call them. It's like go buying a car where everybody gets a different price. You don't want to have a sticker price like it's a can of milk or a box of cereal. We all go into the same supermarket, and what's the price? That's what we all pay. That's not what they have here. And so we need to put that system in check. We need to make government be responsible. I know we are concerned at the national level, but the truth of the matter is the way the Constitution is written and the way the laws are being implemented, we have more say locally than nationally. Whoever the president is, the president may put in a judge. The president sets broad policies at the federal level and will put in a judge that may interpret a law that impact us. But my friends, on the local level, that's where the action is. That's where we have power. Our roads, our schools, our police, our firefighters, all the funding for these different entities, they're at the local level. That's where we have a say. And I'd encourage everyone to come out and vote. Let your voice be heard. I want to win, right? But even if you don't vote for me, come and vote. But I prefer for you to come on to 442 Harbins Road. Early voting is going on until October 29th, and you can vote for Wade Anthony. And election day is November 2nd, 2021. Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. And I'm looking out for you guys to come and vote for me so we can have some change in the Cula. We can have a change, a breakaway from the old boy system. Get some fresh blood, some fresh ideas. I'm ready to Cula. Again, my name is Wade Anthony, and thank you very much.